Call the meeting to order at 7:02. Good evening. Calling the meeting to order, and we will start with the treasurer's report.
So there is no significant change from last month. Really, the only thing that has changed is we have removed the reference to the Institute Road project, since that one did not move forward to town meeting.
Okay.
Other than that, this is a repeat of last month's. If anyone has any questions, let you know, but otherwise, there's no change.
Any questions?
So we still haven't heard from the Department of Revenue?
No, we have not.
Well, they're gonna make it a surprise.
They'll take it to the wire.
What about the reserve numbers for town meeting?
I thought
Well,
all those
We
numbers
already-
were
we-
solid.
Yeah,
Mary
we
will
already
put
had
those
those.
in.
Yeah.
Remember, the warrant article was blank.
Well, I
We
thought-
gave them to Finance Committee,
Yeah.
You did give them the numbers when you went, okay.
Yes.
or Paul did.
Yeah. So we could, I guess we could follow up with William, make sure he's all set, but as far as I know, he should be. I can send him a note.
Okay.
Move to accept.
We have a motion to accept the
Second.
minutes, and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Declare the motion carried unanimously. Clerk's report.
So there's two sets of minutes, the one from your meeting in March, and then I wrote up this quick thing regarding the Finance Committee meeting, that two of you attended, but we had posted a agenda just in case, so.
You didn't want to come in unnoticed.
No, that's my entrance song. Thank you.
2 minutes, one for Finance Committee, and then the other is the March 23rd meeting minutes. Have a motion?
I have notes on both.
Okay.
I was in attendance at the finance
Oh,
committee.
you were? I'm sorry.
Yes,
I
he
will add
was.
that.
And on line 88 and 117 of the meeting minutes, I believe I'm referred to as Jake.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
What line
Are you
is
from
that
State
again?
Farm?
88 and 117.
That's the problem with spell check. It can't, it's not AI, it's just spell check. Okay, so we have addition of Jack's name on the Finance Committee minutes on April 13th, and a correction on the March 23rd committee meeting minutes. Any other corrections or updates? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Declare the motion carried unanimously. Let's see. So town meeting is coming up in a couple of weeks. On
It's the 9th,
the 9th,
Monday. 9th, 8th?
at 7 o'clock. And I'm sure what they'll do, as they have been doing in the past, is the selectmen read them, the articles. And if there are questions, they would address them to us. If it's appropriate, we'll have them speak to the proponents of the article if there are questions regarding the project. We typically sit in the front in the center section towards the left. Some people sit with other committees, but that's where CPC typically sits, is in the front, down on the left.
Jen Anderson has put together a presentation.
Okay,
Dawn had reached out to me. She said she had heard from Jen saying she did have a presentation. I told her I didn't expect that there would be one for the Affordable Housing Trust.
right.
And that CPC members would be there to speak to any funding questions.
And I'll be there to speak if anyone has questions about the housing authority.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, and I have these. Who wants to take these? I got clearance for these to be left at
Oh,
the
flyers?
registration table again.
You can leave them with me.
Okay.
We usually hand out or have them available at the tables that provide basic information about CPC and the act.
How many of those do we have? Is that our entire
This
supply?
is it, yeah.
How many do you think that is? You don't
I
have to count
first
them.
printed off 250,
Okay.
so
And
this is what wasn't taken,
the last meeting,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
I think it's,
We can use those up and then redo them, like
Yeah.
update them, make changes
yeah.
if we need
I
to.
mean, I created this in Canva. You don't have to have that, like, it's free software for, at the level that I created this at.
Mhm.
So whoever does this, I can show them how to get onto Canva and I can send them mine
Yep.
if they want, and then it's just a simple update.
That would be great.
I don't know why I had to hold it the whole time I was
So we can see
school
it.
teacher.
Carol Merrill.
Really? Okay. Project signage, I did meet with Genevieve at Sunshine Sign. The signs that we approved at the last meeting were $378.65 for 5 signs. The actual signs aren't the problem, it's the frame for the sign that I had a problem with. She showed me what the YouTube is. It is shaped almost like a V, and it's what you see for stop signs, and it's quite large, it's massive, and you can paint it, it was silver, the one she showed me. You could paint it black, you could paint it green, but it's massive, and then there's also a piece, because you can't just slide these in the ground, you have to bang them in the ground, and there was a piece of metal that's as big as my fist, that it's like $100, that you put on top to bang them into the ground. It fits right over that U-tube, so you're like bang here, bang, so you're slowly getting it into the ground. I thought, it's like, that little thing's gonna disappear quickly. I would think that won't be around too long, and then it'll just be banging the sign, and then that will kind of torque and tear up the sign. I also wasn't real wild about that YouTube, or whatever she called it, and so she had a 1-inch square tube that it looked much nicer, and she said it would only add $10 to $15 per sign. When I got the new bid, went from $76 a sign to $340 a sign. So it went from $378 to $1,700. So there's got to be a happy medium. And the sign that I had seen it looked just like the old-fashioned for sale
Is that a
sign.
decimal mistake? I mean, she
Yeah,
said
maybe.
$10 and it turned out to be hundreds of dollars. It's a big difference.
Right, but again, I couldn't believe it was $10 or $15 based on what she was showing me, because it looks nice. It looks it's like the signs that you see like she was showing me these campus signs that were extruded aluminum that are beautiful, and those were like $10,000.
But those signs don't usually get moved.
Right, but
So
even
that's
so,
temporary sign.
the posts that she had, and the man showed me, we went in the back and we were looking around, but she was pretty confident that it would only be like $10, $15 more per sign. So I need to meet with her again. I just wanted to kind of update you to let you know the initial one's probably not a go. I don't have
But is it
approval.
not a go because you don't want to bang them in and you think the thing's gonna be lost, or you don't like the look?
I didn't like, I just thought they looked
Flimsy,
cheap.
yeah.
Oh, did they?
And it was also, they were massive, these big things, these big massive things that are gonna go on the sign. And on the old fashioned, for sale sign, it's almost just like a little tiny L, not even the full L, and sometimes you just step on them and they go into the ground. They had a stake at the bottom and you stepped on it, and that was one of the things
Very easy to put in.
But if it's easy to put in, it's easy, I
to
guess,
remove.
walk by and
Right.
take it too. I mean, it's, you're kind of in a,
You could
they're in
steal it, for sure.
between wanting a permanent sign and a sign that's gonna be there. It seems like some of these for years,
Right.
right? So,
And that was another concern that I addressed with Paul, was the more expensive sign, which was, I think, before I even knew the price. You have to dig a hole and put it in and then backfill the
That's not
hole.
gonna happen.
And I said, you know, I don't have a problem doing that. I thought maybe that would be good for the committee to actually get our fingernails dirty to get involved with signs that are,
outing.
right, to build, community within community preservation. But,
Can't the contractor put them in if they're getting all the money from CPC to
and
fund their
it's gonna be
project?
$100 more a pop.
No, she's saying the person who's getting the
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Boy
exactly.
Scouts or whoever it
Sure.
is gets.
Whoever's
They're
getting
getting the money,
yeah.
they can put
Yeah.
the effort into putting the sign
I
in.
like it.
Grafton Theater, the high school theater, has these big signs they put up for every show. There's 3 of them, they put them around town, and my wife and I put them in all the time. They are big wooden signs, they just have probably that thick metal that sticks out at the bottom, and all we do is we push them in the ground. They go in probably about that far. It holds them beautifully. It's easy.
Where'd you get them?
They were handmade. They're just like wooden signs that we take and we have, Sunshine Sign makes like a banner that we zip tie onto it with each show. Just take them off and put on a new one. I'm not saying we use the same sign, but
What
I'm
are
just
the
saying something
stakes?
that's just a stake that you just push into the ground. That's all you need. And if someone steals them, they're not expensive, so it's, you're not like totally upset.
Right.
Remember the old campaign signs?
The old ones are probably good. The new ones are so cheap, they fall apart.
No, but the wooden ones, remember?
Yeah.
They would have the big stake and
Yeah.
just the wooden frame and you'd,
The real old for sale
Stapled
signs
up.
were metal. They were just a heavier gauge metal. They weren't these thin little wire things
Right.
that are spot
And
welded
those, like, you try
together.
to step on them,
Yeah,
either
they
they break or they hit a rock and they don't, you know, so it's always
I
a
think you need
challenge.
something more than that, those
Right.
little tiny wires.
Yeah.
You need something
Right.
more with the steps.
Just a heavier gauge.
And because these are gonna be reused, they have to be a little bit more substantial.
I think you gotta go back to her on that quote.
Okay, yeah,
Because that
okay.
seems a little crazy.
Look at the sign that the complex has at the bottom of Carroll Road. It's just an
Okay.
old for sale sign
Yeah.
that they've put in a little sign that they can take out and put another one in.
Okay,
It's a heavy grade metal for sale sign.
follow up on that. Let's see. Okay, project updates. Eric's not here, so we don't have a Affordable Housing Trust update. Any update on the town records archives?
I talked to Candy and there's no update. She hasn't moved forward with it yet.
Okay. Nothing, I think we're gonna be starting from scratch on the gravestones. Actually, I take that back. I believe it's next Thursday, the Gravestone Girls, it's a group that does gravestones.
the gravestone girls?
Girls, I believe that's their.
Girls.
Girls.
Gravestone Girls?
They're 80 and above.
They, no, they're
Get in.
not. Ladies. But they
Well,
are
it's the
doing a
Golden
program,
Girls.
they're doing a program at the library. The Willard House is sponsoring it, but it's at the library. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna go ask them, you know, in terms of conservation, and have pictures. Cause they're gonna talk about some of the Grafton gravestones, but also their projects, cause they've done programs before. And it seems like they have been in Grafton, but it's been quite some time since they've been in Grafton to do their presentation.
Okay, yeah, they're not from Grafton,
No,
they're just
but-
a group that
Right,
goes
that they go around and do,
Yeah.
you know, they do restoration.
Yeah,
But then they go and they do these programs to different communities. And I've seen them before. I know they've been on Chronicle. So I think it's 3 ladies that do this, or, you know, young ladies.
Yeah.
That, this is their job. And, I thought that would be at the Q&A, my
Yeah.
opportunity to say, here are pictures of, what do you suggest? What do you do? What do you tell your customers to do?
yeah.
So.
it's a good
You,
opportunity.
there was no, work that Richard had done?
He had made, it's just like a temporary shelter, for lack of a more accurate description, to protect it so that snow and ice would not fall on the top.
One.
of
But I
one.
thought
That's all
that,
this is, it's just for one.
I thought that he had made contact with somebody in Boston. No?
I don't know what happened because when I reached out to him, he said he deleted all his emails and threw everything away. So he didn't have any information to share with me. Weights and measures is downstairs. Take a look on your way out.
What about Grafton Common?
Yeah, you skipped right over it.
Oh, how did I miss? Oh, I'm sorry.
Poor Paul.
I can't read. Grafton Common. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Sorry.
So, a lot of progress has been made. The sprinkler / irrigation system work is all done. I'm waiting on the invoice. It was ready, but it was coming in higher than what their original estimate was, so I asked for some explanation on what the added costs were for, so I'm waiting on that. The telephone pole has been removed, the wires are all removed, the wires that had gone to the pole in the common, they are now routed along the edge of the common to the pole that's across from the, whatever it's gonna be called now, what was called the Grafton Inn. I don't know what they're gonna be changing that to.
Was it gonna get changed?
I don't know. It's been sold, I know that. So it goes there and then it goes underground into the new electrical panel. So that's all been done. We had, the archway lights are all wired correctly with the light bulb going through the glass chimney in each of the archways. And the new archway to replace the one that was destroyed hours after the light was installed is finally up after over a year. So that's really good. Grass is starting to come up. I know the town was gonna put down some overseeding too throughout the common, so if that hasn't been done yet, it will be very shortly. So really, everything's coming together. There are a few punch list items left for Jam to finish up on. Those will be done shortly. Includes putting some mulch around one area to the left of the front of the bandstand. Also, the painting of the railing that was done along the elevated walkway was done in December, and it was pretty cold, and we noticed that the paint was peeling. So that needs to be scraped and repainted, so they're gonna be doing that. We did have the light that's inside the bandstand. It was on a switch, which we didn't like. We wanted it to be on a photocell, so it turns on and off with the darkness and the light. So that's been done. So we're really pretty good. The only thing that's still hanging out there is we did have that accessibility advocate. He didn't formally submit a complaint to the AAB, but he did express concerns to the building inspector regarding the transition at the top of the walkway to the bandstand. We did have Dixon Salo Architects out to confirm that whether or not that was within code. You're allowed, I believe it's a 1/4 inch variance, and it's about a 1/2 inch right now. It's higher up in some places than others. So that needs to be addressed and will be by Jam. The other thing that had been complained about was the fact there's no handrails along the main entrance to the bandstand. We were under the impression that creating the elevated walkway was sufficient to provide access. But by code, even though railings aren't required on the bandstand, handrails are required on the steps going up to it.
Do you need a middle one as well?
So by code, because of the width of it, not only are you supposed to have one on each side, but you're supposed to have one in the middle. And then those handrails are supposed to extend a foot into the bandstand itself, which with a small bandstand would be, detrimental to our use of the structure. So we're working on a variance application to the Board of, it's BBRS, don't ask me what it's Board of Building something. At any rate, we have to apply to them for a variance to do something else. So what we are going to ask, we're going to have two asks. The first one being, our preference all along has been to maintain the historical integrity of that building, the structure. And the fact of the matter is we had to put a elevated walkway up there, which on 3 sides really does change the look of the bandstand. But the front of it still looked very much like the original, and we'd like to retain that. Putting in handrails would change the look. So our first ask is, can we put grab bars in instead? So I have a grab bar on each side. If they aren't accepting of that, then our alternative ask is that we do have to put in handrails. Can we only put in one on each side and not have to have it extend into the actual structure? So we'll have plans written up for both of those. We're going to have a narrative for it. We're going to have to reach out to the Accessibility Advisory Committee to get their support and have them do a letter of support to submit with the application. We also need to talk to Bob Berger and get his buy-in on that as well. And then we have to physically actually go there and meet. They have the board that you meet with them, because we did that on the townhouse too, some of the variances we had asked for. So that's going to have a longer tail on it. And then one other thing we're working on is signage and the electrical panel. Originally, we were thinking, the electrical panel is like a brushed aluminum. It doesn't really fit in with the rest of the common. And we were thinking of putting a sign. We were going to put a sign in anyways. We figured we'd block the back half of that with a sign. But it's really not the best place for a sign, just because the angle it's at. There's a lot going on there. There's already a 122, 140 sign. I guess it's 140 sign that's right there. We've got a barrier that we've created to prevent people from taking out the archway again. There's shrubs. It's not a good place for a sign. But we also had noticed that last time we were there, the electrical panel has suffered some damage. It looks like, I don't know what happened from it. It almost looks like something from a lawnmower or something else has hit it and actually put little tiny marks on it, and those marks are now rusting. So we could paint it, sand those out and paint it, but what we're thinking of doing is sanding them out, painting them, and then doing this wrap that you can put over it. And the wrap would be, we take a historic photo, and the one that we were thinking of, I don't know if you've all seen it, but there is a picture from the late 1800s of a group of people. There's some adults and some children. They had a project with bird feeders. And there's a woman standing in the middle, kind of dressed like the Statue of Liberty, wrapped in what's probably red, white, and blue. It's a black and white picture, you can't tell. But she's got a torch, and she's holding it, and it's right under the archways that we just brought back. So we thought that would be a really appropriate picture. And you can have that. They blow it up, and they wrap it around so that the picture goes right around it. So we thought that would look nice. And then we can put some type of signage in another spot. And we're still working out the details of that and what that sign would be. So that's where we're at.
You still have enough money to do all that stuff?
Yes.
Sorry, just to jump in, the fountain, anything on the fountain?
We're not sure whether the fountain should go there or not. One concern with it is, it's beautiful, but it has a lot of sharp edges at the top of it that are kind of dangerous. We could put it there, put some kind of a low fence around it. It's not going to prevent people from going in there, but it'll make them think about it, I suppose, and put a, stay out sign or something to that effect. But again, then where do we put it? One of the places we had thought about was essentially where it was, which is where the access for the new backflow preventer is, and that could be used to kind of disguise it. But again, there's a lot going on in that section too. There's a sign for, I'm not sure what that sign is. There's an old sign from like the 30s,
Right.
1930s.
Our centennial sign.
Yes. So that's right there. There's a bench there. It's right at the end. So we're still working through it. That is one thing we're still considering. Yeah. So, and also we've been thinking about, having some kind of ribbon cutting, but we're not sure as to when that will be. we want to have the signage in place. That's probably going to take a little bit longer, so we may wait towards the end of the summer to do any kind of ribbon cutting.
Well, it looks nice.
Yeah, now the leaves are coming out and the flowers are starting to pop out too, so it does look nice. And we'll have full use for the summer. I mean, whether we have the ribbon cutting or not, the farmer's market can be there, everyone can be there. So
And just stop people from hitting it.
Really.
that'd be nice.
I think this is, I know we've done a lot of projects, but this is one of the most visible projects, and it's gonna be the most utilized by people in town.
Yep.
Since a comment, it's such a busy place, so,
Yes, it is.
I appreciate, I for one appreciate all that you've done, because I know this has been, you had a black beard.
I think I did. I think you're right. It's a labor of love, so it's, you know, it's one of the things that I fell in love with when I first came to this town, so.
And no matter where I go, I was on the Cape this weekend and stopped, this little guy had antiques, so we drove up into his yard, and I said, oh, do you ever do the Grafton Antique Show? And he's like, oh, Grafton Common, you know, it's like everybody knows about Grafton Common, so.
Yep. Quintessential New England.
Just because we're on something historic, and I'm really afraid I'll forget this. The committee received a copy of the State Register of Historic Places from the state. I think we might be one of the only committees that got it. Historical Commission may have gotten
I
one.
think the Historic District Commission got one, yeah.
Oh, you got one too? Okay, anyways, it's in the filing cabinet, labeled
Yeah.
Community Preservation in the Select Board office, if anybody wants it.
So it was addressed to us.
It was addressed to us.
What does it list the buildings that?
It's like this thick, and
It's
it's, I took a
But does
photo
it-
of the front because I was
Does it
afraid.
say, but in town, which?
I used to have a
It includes
notebook.
ours in town,
Yeah.
but it's for
how
everyone.
many-
It's put out by Galvin, Secretary of the
Yeah.
Commonwealth.
You don't know how
It's
many-
State
you don't know
Register of
how many
Historic
have that
Places.
In Grafton,
Yeah.
there's at least,
I think the library,
on the
the
National Register.
Grafton Inn, and then, you know, the Historic District is, and because of that, all the buildings that are part of it are in there as well.
but individual listings, it includes the Ethan Allen gun site,
Oh,
the home and workshop in North Grafton, Willard House. There's a house on North Street on the corner of the big white house. Oh gosh,
Cooney's house?
is that who it is?
They're all big white houses.
Yeah,
No,
except the
no.
little White House.
It has like a barn attached.
Yeah, it could be Cooney's, right on the corner of Miriam.
Yes, maybe that's, yeah. And that house, there's a group nomination for the state hospital property, all those buildings. So there's several from Grafton.
My point really was, it was just, we've never received it before, so.
I used to have a notebook that every year you just take the old one out rather and just put the new ones in. But that's when we had, historical had a little office, which is now, I think, the camera room or down that way. So weights and measures, all set. Lions Club, I think the last email, they had sent an invoice that they're working on the bathrooms.
So for the weights and measures, you're still waiting on the reimbursement, or can this be closed out?
I need to check with Mary, because I did check at the last library meeting this month, and they said that they had paid, the library had paid, or the fundraising committee had paid for the electrical that was put in, because it was more than what was originally planned in terms of what we needed, because at that point they decided we couldn't, they did not want it moved there, or the building inspector said it couldn't be moved there. So I need to double check with Mary to make sure, have her run that account so that it does not show anything that was paid, then that money can the balance can be returned. Historical. Do you have any update on the recreation ADA?
Just that she's expecting a quote tomorrow for those final upgrades. It has to be spent, I think, by June, so that'll be closing out this month.
I had gotten some feedback, and I'm trying to remember who it was from, and I can't, that, some of those mats, over the course of the season got, kind of overgrown with grass or whatever, and that they require maintenance during the season so that people can actually really utilize them. I don't know if anyone else had provided that feedback.
I know they're all in bad shape and it has to pretty much be redone. They weren't installed properly to begin with, and then I think she's reconsidering whatever they're using to go in. So, but I'll bring that up, that
Okay.
Because I
maintenance
heard
was a
that from
concern.
two different places, one on North Street.
Norcross
Oh.
Park?
Or
Yeah.
many
Minor field.
Minorfield.
Yeah. I actually heard it was Roger Trahan that had
Right,
mentioned that.
he
to me.
told me, yes.
At
And then-
which, where was the,
He was saying it was all over, and he
Okay.
didn't
Yeah,
specify
every
any
one
one
of
place.
those mats at I mean,
Yeah.
a waste of time and money,
Yeah.
totally.
And then the one at the Ferry Street Park
Yeah, I mean,
as well.
I probably-
They're just buried.
I probably got rid of them, but every time I'd go to a park and you'd see these, I took a picture of them because it was comical how badly, I mean,
Overgrown.
yeah, well, it didn't make any sense. It's not making anything accessible at all.
right,
Well, on the beach it did, because you could actually roll on it rather than on the sand,
But that
but
was
you have to
sand.
maintain
Yeah,
it.
this is on,
Right.
it
This
was
isn't
on top of the,
grass.
well, or on top of the shavings, which would just go
Mulch.
on top of it, and half of them are buried, and, I mean,
Yeah.
it just,
Requires maintenance.
they did it because they got rid of the ADA compliant park. It was a throwaway toss for nothing, waste of money.
The UUSGU, Universal
Yeah.
Accessibility.
So I did get an update. We didn't have time to talk about it last month, so I'll just kind of go through it. In January, they met with Norm Hill of Land Planning, Inc. He made a presentation to the Board of Trustees and explained the shaftway design work he had done and the characteristics of the vertical lift. Work was also done by Ted Beauvais on the variance request for the MAAB. He also met with Norm Hill to work on the application, which they submitted on March 17th. And the application fee was mailed on the 20th. The variance request is due to the fact that the vertical lift will only serve 2 levels of the building and will not serve the basement classrooms, which it's impractical to do due to an excessive cost without any substantial benefit. So the church has written a policy to accommodate somebody who has mobility impairments and would be unable to access those classrooms. So basically, if they have somebody that has those needs, they would move the class to an accessible area, which is just like what Apple Tree did before they had the elevator. They submitted a couple of invoices. One of them, unfortunately, I did not see, so it was delayed, but I did see it this week, and Joanne was kind enough to help me expedite it, so hopefully,
He's gotta prove it and it'll go.
so if you get a chance to approve that, that would be nice. So that's where they're at. They're doing a good job, moving ahead.
Okay. I have kind of a mini update on South Grafton Playground that, I don't know if we talked about it at the last meeting, but from reviewing the bills, it looks like all the CPC funds have already been expended, and didn't get clarification on that. I sent some information to Justin, and also a photograph, because the asphalt, which I don't believe we paid for, is already starting to fail. There's a sinkhole in the asphalt. And so I sent that to him as well, so he would have that information, but he emailed and said he wasn't gonna be able to attend tonight, so I'm sure he'll follow up on that.
Did they finish the whole project, or,
No.
so they expended our money first instead of last? Not ours, but CPA money.
Right.
Yeah.
But until he can come and discuss that, at least there's a little interim report on that.
Was, the funds were expended, but that was the issue where nobody here signed off on them, right?
Right.
We were
And that was the
bypassed?
concern, that
Who is they? The school?
the schools
Cool.
and the people in the accounting office paid it. And they, I guess, weren't aware that individuals can't just approve their own bills. They have to come from
Come through
us.
us.
Yeah,
That's always
you
been
talked to the TA
a sore
about that, the
subject for
town
me,
accountant
because
about
there's always
that,
been a
didn't you?
problem that if these are our
remember
funds, and
this
we're
went to
trying to
him
watch our,
directly.
I understand.
no, but that's,
yeah,
it's like, you do everything you can and it still keeps happening, so I'm not real sure, what else to do, other than I'm gonna send an email out to everybody that is a project funding recipient to say, all bills must come back through your representative and approved by, CPC
John,
to
how
It's
be
in,
paid.
it's in that
How recent was
agreement.
that last transaction that was incorrect?
That was within the last, I don't know when it was actually, because I caught it when we met with Mary.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at it and I couldn't understand why
So
there's
it
no
was- It was
money.
before that.
Hmm?
It was before we met Mary.
Right.
Yes.
No, Mary knows.
Mary knew,
And
and
she apologized.
we clarified it for her, and she was very apologetic.
Yeah, she's already started correcting the procedure on
But
her
it's
side.
like, that this is, I guess, every time there's a new town accountant, that I need to make sure they know that
Well,
this is what needs to happen.
The grant agreement, so remember that your recipients sign clearly state who the invoices are to go to.
Right.
So it's not really Mary's
Right.
fault.
No, but it's like, but the
Not
person that's
No, but
processing,
she should, and not to blame
if there's
her,
not a
but-
signature.
She's a gatekeeper.
She's the
so-
Yeah, she's the
Correct.
gatekeeper, exactly. Other people are
Correct.
volunteers or whatever, she's supposed to put the hand up and
Right,
say.
to say, oh, yeah, it needs to go here before
Right.
we receive this, but it needs to go somewhere else.
Right.
But Mary knows it now.
Yes, she does.
So, so north, 95 North Street?
Jen said they're a little bit behind schedule. They're doing their soil testing now. I think that was supposed to have been completed like in the winter. But, the parking lot is still scheduled to go in over the summer between June and August. And then the picnic pavilion would be in the fall.
When do they do the trails?
I'm assuming that's with the picnic pavilion, like the whole rest of the project. The parking lot's first.
It ain't with the trail forward.
What kind of surface are they gonna use on that to make it accessible? Is it stone dust or?
Yeah, I think it's a compacted,
Yeah.
You said the soil testing has just begun?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Robinson property, the purchase has gone through. Do you know, has the land trust received what they need to do
Yes,
the whatever?
right. The next step is to work with the conservation agent and make an application for a conservation restriction. And the land trust is just going to copy the application for the one for the first part of the property and change the property details
Okay,
and reapply.
okay. And so that's the baseline report.
The baseline reports, the land trust has automated the process of doing baseline reports so that they can just dump the GPS tracks and the photographs into a system that creates the report, and you add the narrative and it's done. So
Okay.
it won't be going outside to use a consultant to do those reports.
Okay,
So it's expected that that money will not be used.
okay. And for Joanne, this is like not a current project, but a potential project. If you could add to our list, because sometimes we have future potential projects, like with Nipmuc's, their project on Brigham Hill. They said we're gonna be coming again. That there's a group that's interested in doing a, where did I put it? Skateboard park, or building a to replace the one that was taken down to build the school and the fields. So that's potentially gonna be coming in, at the July meeting. Don't have a dollar amount, they're just getting started on what that might be. And I suggested that they reach out to Jen to help get numbers, and because this should really fall under recreation.
They have come to recreation in the past,
Okay.
but they weren't organized. They didn't really have a definite, like, it was just a brainstorming. This is something we're thinking about. She was gonna see if she could gather some people to,
Oh, I think that there.
is it a different group?
Well, it may or may not be, but there was the ARPA money for the town, that there's, my understanding, maybe up to $50,000 of ARPA money to help with
Okay.
this. And I said, I don't know, they don't know how much it's gonna be. I said, to come to CPC, just if you need the balance or additional funds.
Did they actually get I know they had talked about that, but
I
they
don't know.
remember they had miscalculated the ARPA money, and then they had to go back and
Right,
redo
that
it. I don't know if they ended up getting, do you know who that was for you?
I thought it was Ann Foley,
Was it Anne Marie? And
but
yours is the
That
same
she-
one? Okay.
right,
But
that
she
I
was-
talked to her, but she's just kind of.
trying to get it started and
Right, right.
organized.
Trying to
Heard
get
heard
them-
the cats.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
cohesive
so it
group.
wasn't like at a
Right.
point where they were moving forward with anything.
Yeah.
But we have a meeting tomorrow. I don't know. I didn't see it on the agenda, but
But that, when I heard that, I said, okay, make sure, because I said our deadline is in July, that seems early, and then,
Yeah.
just so that these people can congeal their
Skateboard people.
the skateboard people.
I know, they're not good.
Gator boys?
They're
Yeah.
skateboard people. Like,
And then, along with that, it's like, and if you have a meeting, it's like, I don't know, it can be on the agenda, but I know they have pickleball courts in South Grafton, but, at Perry Hill, is there still a basketball court there?
they're supposed to be.
Could
That's
they
what's
put-
going back and forth. They're discussing about if it's
Could they
gonna
put
be all
pickleball
pickleball courts,
there?
and Jen wants to keep multiple uses going at this point. So the tennis courts will
you're talking about
remain,
Perry Hill or something?
Yeah. and the
Yeah, it should be
basketball court,
multiple.
like, she didn't entertain getting rid of everything and making it all pickleball
No,
yet.
I'm not saying that at all, I'm just saying to add that, because it does not exist there.
Well, no, there's a basketball.
No, pickleball,
Oh,
because it's like, I'm trying to.
it is
because
there now. They
There
have
is pickleball
3.
in North?
Not at North. Oh, that's what you're
I'm
saying?
saying
You were,
Perry Hill, which is in North Grafton.
oh, I'm
Perry
sorry,
Hill
I'm
is up by
confused.
the fire
I'm thinking
station.
Ferry Street.
Yeah.
Okay, the one that's up
In South
top,
Grafton,
that's
right.
just like a
It's,
Yeah,
elementary school playground type thing.
used to be a school site.
Oh, okay.
yeah, there was a basketball court up there. I mean, I think it was,
And it
it
may
was
just
in some
be,
Yeah, I don't
disrepair.
know.
It did get some funding, and then it might have gone into disrepair
Right.
again. But
in terms of.
But
you know,
that one should be, should be multiple, don't make that,
Right.
it should be a multiple of things that
Right, so that there's
you can keep it going.
activities for all
Right,
ages,
Right,
up into your older ages, not just,
your age.
the little kids,
Mm-hmm.
your age.
We'll be able to play bridge up there?
Have some benches.
We need some bocce courts somewhere.
Oh, now you're going.
That would be cool.
Curling rink. I
Or
want
cheesy
curling
anyone?
rink.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
can
yeah.
go on Silver Lake.
You gotta have frozen ice.
Right.
Okay,
It shouldn't be hard to do, though.
What?
Bocce shouldn't be that hard
I
to do.
know, it's
Any
just a
place there's-
sand
It's just
pit.
a sand pit, and a thin one at that, I think.
but
it
don't
is.
they
I
have
love
like
playing that at
a
the beach.
border?
Bocce.
Yeah, but it's a couple,
They have
sand.
them in
and-
Boston.
We should stick it right in the common. We can add it to your
Right
project.
next to it.
Project will never end. Come on, people.
Right by the fountain.
Yeah. It's very busy over by the bocce court. and the-
This is our historic bocce ball court.
Okay, so that's the last agenda item. I would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge, this is Joanne's last meeting with us.
Say it ain't so.
We couldn't twist her arm to stay. She's,
All good things must come to an end.
How many years
You
have
have a
you been
speech?
involved with this committee now?
So I started with the committee in the very beginning. Right?
What
Yeah.
year was that?
2002?
2002.
2002.
Yep. And I left, I was on it for 13 years. And then I had a couple years off. and then I came
And the
here.
committee limped along for a few years.
20 years.
What'd you say?
Struggled.
And then?
It did fine. And then I took this job. I remember because John
And
called me.
then we started,
and
like,
he's
moving
like,
again."
We need an admin assistant. We're hiring.
There you go.
So I applied. Yeah.
Well, we will miss you
I'll miss all of
and
you.
your tireless
I'm not
service.
going anywhere. Poor Bill. Bill Robideau was in here before. He's like, you would have thought. I said, I'm not moving out of town. I'm like,
Tear
"I'll
up. He's very emotional, that guy.
He's
You tear
just
up a
such a kind person. I said,
He is
I'll
a
come
kind
to
person.
meetings. He's like, but if you don't, I just want to know that, but I will.
But
And so I've written stuff for the person who takes the job. I'll leave it with Cindy. I'll leave it with you. This belongs to you guys. You bought it, so Cindy will have it. So the next person will have a laptop.
Make sure they don't give it away.
What's the
And-
logistics on that? Who hired, I mean, does
I've
anybody?
been working with William
So
to
you sit in on
interview.
it?
Yes,
So you,
I have not.
Are
have
we
not
advertising, yeah?
yeah.
They've advertised, yes.
They have.
So,
yeah.
But, and I left my phone number, whoever takes on, just call, And I talked to Stuart Saganor today, and he said that he and Chase, as soon as the person's hired, they should reach out to them and they'll do a Zoom call to help the person out in any way they can, get them up to speed on stuff. And, before the person's hired, if you need something, just let me know. I don't mind volunteering for you guys.
So
Thank
we
you.
appreciate all that you've done. I
sure.
appreciate all you've done.
It's been fun. I'm gonna miss you, but I got too many balls in the air right now.
So, thank you.
All right. Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Ken.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
All opposed? Good evening. Thank you.